Laura Burke, online fitness coach and host of the Amazing Ordinary podcast. Laura, welcome to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Adrian. I'm delighted to be talking to you today. And yeah, it's refreshing to have some new chats. So yeah, thanks for having me.
This is actually for all the listeners out there, we're recording this on Zoom, and this is actually a three-way podcast because it's myself, it's Laura Burke, and of course her new young child Taylor Williams is accompanying her. So we've got a three-way call here, Laura, which is awesome.
As I said, Adrian, life as a mom, there's no scheduling anymore. And I thought this little boy would be asleep and he's wide awake. So we're feeding him. So if you're hearing the cooing or burps maybe throughout this podcast, it's all part of the process.
It's all part of the process because that's what we're going to talk about shortly, Laura. But before we actually get you to share your backstory, Laura, share something about yourself that most people do not know.
Something that they don't know. They probably don't know that I do work a full-time job. You know, I think a lot of people do assume that I'm a full-time PT, and I don't. Obviously, at the moment, I'm on maternity leave, but I do have like a 9-to-5 office job. And what else? So I'm from Dublin, Adrian. A lot of people assume that I'm from Galway, and I'm not. I'm a Dub. So yeah, curveball.
She is a D4 Dub, absolutely. A D4 Dub living in Galway. Awesome stuff. And for all the listeners there, so Laura and I, we first got to know each other because we used to train in the same gym in town in Tuam, in Corl and Tuam. And I remember Laura when we were like, you know, I'd see you obviously most evenings in the gym, no more than myself. And at the time before you did your PT course, I told you were asking me for like some recommendations for some choice of like, you know, what courses would you recommend? And I said, you know, this is the one that I did. There's one in Galway on, and we'll say like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. This was like the start of the year, and you were like, I can't wait that long. I just need to do this. I really want to get into the game.
ASAP.
Which,
I was like frantically trying to find one. I was like, no, it needs to now.
So tell us, Laura, you know, share your backstory. Like, how did you kind of get into fitness in the first place? Just share a bit about yourself in that end.
Yeah, so when I was, I guess, like, to be honest, Adrian, when I was younger, and people find this hard to believe, like, I was never into sports and things. And I don't know, was it just not pushed as much in my school, but it just wasn't my thing. And then as I got older, obviously you do more of a focus on your health and everything else. But it was really when I was about 22, I'm going to say, I was going through maybe a bit of a stressful time in my life, and my parents were separating, and I was like very high stress at the time. And I was just like, I don't know, I suppose I'd nowhere to sort of channel that, you know, energy like that, you know, you'd be feeling anxious and all the rest. And a friend of mine said, look, come to this gym with me. She went to this gym class in Dublin called the Underground, which was amazing. It was like this circuit style, really hardcore. And I was like, oh God, I hate exercise. No. But I went with her anyway. She kind of dragged me along one night. And I remember doing the class. It was so tough. And I left saying to myself, like, I'm never going back there. That was hell. And I'm in agony. And then after a couple of days, I was like, God, actually, like that kind of pain is a bit satisfying. I feel good after that. And maybe I will try it again, you know? And I went back, and sure, before I knew it, Adrian, I was hooked. I was there like 5 nights a week. Even the guy who owned the gym used to say to me, you should take more rest days, Laura. It's like, but this is just so good. But really what I found was, above all else, for my head, it was doing me the world of good. Like, it was just headspace. And from then on in, I realized, like, apart from the, you know, aesthetic benefit of working out, the headspace that I get from it alone is worth it. And that's what keeps me going today. You know, people would say like, oh, like what keeps you motivated or whatever. And I'm like, because I feel 100 times better after a workout, even if it's only 15 minutes, like your head is just flipped. So yeah, like that's where it really started. So I continued exercising after that. And then, yeah, when I started that PT course, I was 30, I'm going to say, about 3 years ago. And I was doing a job, an office job that I just wasn't very happy in. I felt like I didn't really know where I wanted to go in life in terms of my career direction, I guess. And I was really, really stressed out. And I remember one evening just going for a walk with my mum, and she was like, you can't stay in this position being this upset and stressed all the time. you know, what are you going to do about it? And I was kind of realizing it wasn't good for me to just wait for the perfect job to come up either. I just needed to like take the reins and do something about it. So she was kind of saying to me, like, what do you love? And she was like, you know, you love going to the gym. And I was like, yeah, I do. But I don't know, do I want to make that my job? Because there's always that fear then that you don't enjoy it as much anymore, you know? But anyway, nonetheless, I was running out of options, decided to sign up to a course. That's when I was talking to you about it. And I was like, what course would you recommend? And then I went along and did it. And as soon as I set foot in that first night of that course, Adrian, it was like it all just fell into place. I thought I found my tribe. You know,
Yes.
It was just amazing to meet like-minded people, to be studying something that I was so naturally interested in anyway. And it's amazing when you study something you love, like you take every inch of it in like a sponge, you know. So I loved it. And then, like, as typically as life goes, as soon as I had decided to do that course, a job came up anyway that I actually do really enjoy now as well, and that's my 9 to 5. The universe works in funny ways. I think once you make one decision,
you put it out there.
Yeah, other doors kind of open up. It's like once you sort of say, I'm not taking this negativity anymore, then good things happen. So it kind of worked part and parcel. But look, I continued with the course anyway. And then once I finished, Coral Leisure, the gym we were in, very kindly had offered me, like, you know, they said, look, we knew you were doing the course. You're more than welcome to come and do your PTs here, but would you also think about doing a class or two? And I thought that was really good for me, just to throw myself in the deep end and build up the confidence I get to do classes and things. So I was doing that for a while and doing my PTs in the gym. And then, of course, COVID hit. So, COVID, the bugbear in all our lives for the past few years. But I have to say, it ended up being probably another hidden blessing in terms of it pushed me to a point of having to do online clients much sooner than I probably ever would have. You probably know too, like as soon as COVID hit, there were some people I've been working with one-to-one that then sort of came to me and said, look, is there anything we can do online? And I thought, oh gosh, yeah, like I suppose there is, you know, and I hadn't sort of thought about it till that point. And now I do all my clients online, and I really have to say I enjoy it. And I find you not only have a wider reach, but to be honest, Adrian, you're teaching people far more valuable skills. And I'm sure you know this too. You know, when you're in the gym with someone, you have to do an element of, I don't want to say hand holding, but they're relying on you an awful lot, like you being beside them. And then when you take you as the trainer out of the equation, people can sometimes lose motivation. Whereas when you're working with them online, you're kind of giving them the tools to get that motivation themselves. And people I find have been more inclined to stick to plans after your time is up with them, when you've kind of done it online and you've 100%. Like taught them so much.
100%.
So
amazing.
That's a lot of waffle there. You one question.
A lot of good. No, a lot of good stuff unpacked there. Like, first of all, I loved, and I agree so much that overrated working out to look better, underrated working out just for your mind, for your mental, for your mental health, as you said. I think that was a great point, Laura. You also mentioned, you know, like just the opportunity, like that maybe you weren't feeling fulfilled. Your mum had a conversation with you. You took a bit of a leap of faith, and the power of just surrounding yourself, as you said, with like-minded people. I love that. COVID as well. Then amazing again. You know, it caused you to grow. It resulted in you growing and you know, going into another side of your business that maybe at the time you felt you weren't ready, but you know, we're never really ready. You gotta adjust along the way. So some fantastic points there, Laura, but you're in a different season of life now, obviously. This is a three-way podcast, as I said.
Because we just had a little sneeze there, just in case you can hear it.
Because it is Laura, it is her young child Taylor also, who was just he's how old is he now, Laura?
9 weeks. So
9 weeks old. Wow.
So 9 weeks. And he looks like he's about 9 months. He's huge.
So Laura, why don't you just like talk to us about, you know, pre and postnatal exercise there? So we'll first of all go like just during pregnancy, like what's your training look like? Were there any exercises you avoided? Do you mind just sharing a bit about that, Laura?
Of course, yeah. So I suppose during my own PT training, let's say, you know, you touch on pre and postnatal, but until you're in it yourself, it's definitely a very different ball game. And it's funny how you might know on paper what to avoid, what to do, what not to do. And when it comes to yourself, then you're kind of overly cautious, you know, you're like, oh gosh, you know, this is new. So early on, I'm going to say, you know, a lot of women go through this kind of period where they're feeling low in energy, very nauseous. You know, it's different for everyone, but the first trimester certainly can be challenging. And when I found out I was pregnant, I kind of just thought, you know what, I was feeling pretty sick. I was wrecked, and I just thought, okay, I'm not going to push it. And that was tough for me because my head, all I wanted to do was work out. But then there's just a part of you saying, just not now, you know, just not now, go with this. So I actually took, for the first time in years, Adrian, about 7 weeks off exercise. And now I know it was the absolute best thing I did, you know. I could have continued exercising, don't get me wrong, but I was just, as I say, feeling not up to it. And I just thought, no, go with this, take the rest your body's asking for, and you can come back to it after. So I took it very easy from like weeks like 7 to 14, which is around your first trimester. And then coming into the second trimester, I upped the ante again. So I took it slow. Because I'd taken that break, I had to really reintroduce exercise week by week. So I started maybe 1 week doing two light workouts, and then the following week 3 light workouts, and building it up to 4. I actually was back to 5 by the time I had them, but like each week I just built on the intensity again. So I kept the workouts pretty much to what I have been doing in terms of resistance based, but I might have kind of dropped the weights in some instances, and then certainly avoided like all floor based abdominal work. So, you know, I wasn't doing any crunches. If I was doing a plank, it was on my knees. Also, like anything where I'd be lifting my legs above my head, like I avoided all things like that. You know, you shouldn't have your legs above your heart for too long, just for your circulation. Or like, let's even say like glute bridges on the ground. I would have done them at a height, like I would have done them at an elevation. So they're all the things kind of that changed, I guess. And then like that, if you were in a gym setting, like people would say to avoid things like the leg press machine, you know, because that's where your legs are above your heart as well. So yeah, like little things that I kind of had to adjust. But then in general, like it wasn't actually, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was very restricted, and I didn't feel like I had to change everything. I certainly didn't have to reinvent the wheel, you know, that kind of way.
Interesting. And Laura, how, so you mentioned like the second half of that first trimester, you took that like 7-week break, and then from, we'll say like trimester 2 and 3, up until the point of pregnancy, you know, how soon up until that did you continue to train?
I was training. So actually, well, it was a funny story. I had all sorts of problems and things with my cycle, which would probably be TMI for you, Adrian. But I did not find out that I was pregnant until about week 7. I actually was training right up until then, and like doing crunches like probably the day before, and then I was like, oh Jesus, I need to stop this now. But it was funny, it was because I was feeling so off that then I was like, oh yeah, okay, I need to check this out again, you know, and lo and behold, I was pregnant. But like, it's funny how, you know, like, suppose you can keep going, and then it was just my body told me, like, I was like, why is this, like, I'm just wrecked, you know, and I was like, I'm not feeling right. But yeah, I was training kind of with that normal intensity until about week 7, and then decided, okay, let's just pull the brakes for a bit, you know.
Okay, so week 7 to 14, you took that kind of those 7 weeks off, and just would say week 14, then, Laura, up until the point of pregnancy, like, were you training the week? You know, were you training the week before, 2 weeks before? How soon then did you kind of start to scale things back and completely stop?
So literally like it was, so sorry, do you mean like when I started to take a break from exercising?
Like how soon before your actual pregnancy itself did you have to take another break?
Sorry, before I gave birth to Taylor.
Exactly.
Exactly. Sorry. Yeah, of course. No, I was working out the day before. I actually, so I knew I was being induced on, let's say, a Friday, and I was doing a workout on the Thursday morning. And to be honest, Adrian, I would have done one on the Friday morning, only I had to be in the hospital at like 7 a.m. and I just wasn't up that early. So Yeah, no, I was working out
Amazing.
right up until, and it was the best thing ever because like I really did start to feel in those 7 weeks I took off at the start, albeit it was the right thing at the time. It's funny how like I was going for walks and stuff and I was starting to feel, like pains in my hips and little things. And what I thought maybe was the start of round ligament pain, which a lot of women get and talk about throughout pregnancy as well. And then once I started back to working out, I don't want to say like I breezed through with not a care in the world, because you're
Sure.
very aware you're pregnant and you still feel like a heaviness sometimes and little changes to your body. But all in all, I was very lucky in terms of like I didn't suffer any major problems throughout pregnancy or pains or any of any kind. So I attribute that personally to
Wow.
exercise, definitely. Like I think it kept
Amazing.
my body strong, you know what I mean?
Brilliant. Amazing. And not to mention, I'm sure your mind as well, Laura.
1000%. Yeah, it kept
Wow.
me going. Yeah, it really did. And
Amazing.
it's funny, once I got back to training in like week 14 on, I felt like, oh, I feel like myself again. I was like, this is good. Yeah,
It's good to be
yeah,
back, yeah. And just for all
yeah,
the
yeah,
listeners, you'll find a way if you can prioritize it. If you can prioritize it, you will find a way. If you won't,
exactly,
you'll probably try to find an excuse. So that, Laura, that's really inspiring. And tell us now, like,
exactly.
now that Taylor is 9 weeks old,
Yeah.
and we're at the postnatal stage at this stage, has your training, have you returned back to, do you feel your previous self? Do you have you still had to make adjustments, Laura? Why don't you just talk
Yeah,
about that for a little bit?
I have definitely have to make adjustments. And I have to say, so far, I think I find the postnatal training element more challenging because like when you're pregnant and you've got your bump or whatever, there's things you just feel like, oh, that doesn't feel so comfortable, or I feel a bit limited, or like, a good marker for fatigue would be your pelvic floor, which is so important for women, full stop, but especially we talk about it more during pregnancy and afterwards. To be honest, Adrian, we as women should probably be talking about it more frequently, because it's kind of a shame we only start to focus on it when we really need it to work its best,
Sure.
um but anyway, you've all these kind of things that can help you understand like when you're pushing it too far. But then when you go to postnatal, I suppose I feel quite lucky that maybe, how do I put this, like I started to feel like myself again very quickly, let's say. And then that can be misleading, because you might feel like on the outside, pretty good and pretty normal, but you
Sure.
forget that there's like all this internal healing still going on. So I was probably like trying to dive in a little bit too soon
Okay.
and, do light exercises and light workouts. Now, there was no issue for me doing that. Like I haven't done any damage or anything. And like I knew for me it was right. But then I was kind of like, hang on, like my pelvic floor needs so much work. And I actually need to not only be doing like workouts, but I need to focus on like core rehab as opposed to just, like starting to do weights and stuff again. Like I actually needed to kind of do rehab work, which I kind of hadn't considered. So anyway, I think that what I did was in the last few weeks, I've actually reviewed things quite a lot, and I've started now to incorporate a lot more just rehab work into my week as well as
Okay.
my
Yeah.
regular exercises. So yeah, I went to see a women's female health physio, which I would highly recommend now to anybody expecting a baby. I did it during pregnancy, and I found the postnatal appointment I had was like really, really key, because they
Perfect.
just give you
Yeah.
so much information in terms of where you're at in your recovery. And they can also advise you just on some good like exercises to do to complement your workouts and things like that.
Yeah.
So that was really a good exercise for me. So yeah, it's been slower. It's been a lot of low impact work. Like I wouldn't, even though my body might be up to it, I just don't fully feel comfortable yet, like jumping around or like doing a burpee
Sure.
or
Yeah.
doing like squat jumps. Before, like, to be fair, my workouts would always be fairly resistance based and not jumping around. But there might have been one workout in the week before where I would have done like a little bit higher intensity, and I'm certainly not doing that right now.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
They say typically, this is where I'm basing it, right? I'm not a runner, but they say typically that if you want to start back running post pregnancy, if you are a runner, that you should wait till the 12-week mark. And to me, if that's when you should be kind of like doing that more high impact stuff, like I'm
Makes
only 9
sense
weeks
with the jumps.
postpartum.
Sure.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
so I'm like,
Yes.
I don't want to be like jumping around upsetting
Yeah.
anything internally at this early stage. So
Yeah.
it's a tough one. You feel ready for it, but you have to keep reminding yourself that internally there's a lot of healing going on and you need to
Yeah.
take it slow, you know?
And a lot of parallels here, Laura, between, okay, even just anyone, as you said, return to the gym after a layoff, that you don't just go from, no 0 days to like 7 days a
Yes.
week. As you said, you started out with two, you built it up to three. You might start out with two
Yeah,
sets. Then the next week you do three sets. Then you do, 3 days, and you might go to 4 days and slowly build yourself up. Because
exactly.
most
Yeah.
most injuries are caused as a result of doing, too much too
Too
soon.
much.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
even
And
even that inner voice, it got
yeah.
me last year when I returned back running. I said, let's push it. I wanted to return back sprinting. So I did like I did 2 extra runs, Laura, when
Oh
I knew I
gosh.
felt a bit of a twinge in my hamstring, because on my
Yeah.
program I'd written down that I'm going to do X number of sets. And
Yes.
that kind of that part
Yeah.
of your
I've
mind that
been
says,
there.
let's just harden up and we'll do it. But then it
Yeah.
set me back a few months. So Laura, that's
I
really
know.
interesting. And
See,
before
this
we
is it. And I'm like you as well. If I have something written down or if I've set a plan for myself or a program for myself, I want to stick to it by the book, you know? And it's very hard when you're that disciplined person then to actually like go backwards and say, no, you need to pull it back here, you know? Um, and yeah, like look, that's where I've definitely just taken it slow. And like even in those weeks after having Taylor, like I have to say, I started off just with like some stretching, Adrian. Like your body's so stiff, you know, like even just the whole birthing process, like you're lying in a hospital bed for a couple of days after, and then you
Sure.
come home to the couch and all you're doing is
Yeah.
kind of sitting there and feeding. And you know, when you're feeding, like you've seen me giving him a bottle now, everything's very like hunched over and
Yeah.
you're really rigid and stiff.
Posture,
So
sure.
yeah, so I just felt above all else in those first weeks, I started with just like stretching. I was like, I need to open my body out again and just get my muscles like engaged in any way. So yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. But you know, Pilates is amazing, and like I'm never one for slow exercise. Like I always struggled with that, and I know that's really what you need to do in early days postpartum is just slow, steady work. So yeah, it's been a new challenge for me because I really have had to kind of take it back a couple of gears and tell
Yes.
myself every day, like, no, don't push it. Even if you feel ready, like, don't
Yeah.
overdo it, you know?
Yeah. Important point there too about the difference between training for a feeling and training for a result. Because I
Yes.
know for a lot of people, they might go to a class and they just say, I want to get bed up. I just want to come out
Yeah.
sweating.
Yeah.
But there's a
Yeah.
difference between, do you want to feel good, or do you want to actually get the results too? And as you said, sometimes you got to give your body what it needs, not necessarily what you always want to do. Which
Yeah.
is an important distinction. And just for all the
Big
listeners
time.
out there, if you are enjoying the show, please do tag me and Laura on IG stories. Laura is
Yeah.
at Laura Burke Fitness, and I am at Mac Lifestyle Fitness. If you are listening and enjoying. So Laura, let's kind of transition. So we spoke about the training. Let's talk
Yeah.
about nutrition. Share briefly, about the nutrition during pregnancy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a good one because you know what? It's a head wreck, Adrian. And I feel bad for all women, myself included, because there's such a mishmash of information out there. Essentially, for me personally anyway, during that joyous week 7 to 14, like the wheels really fell off. Like not only was I not exercising, but the nauseousness that I had at that time, the only way I describe it, Adrian, was I felt constantly hungover. And I'm the kind of person with a hangover that like I eat the fridge. Like I can't not eat. It's like you need to just eat away the nauseousness. So I had a fully beige diet from week 7 to 14. I've never eaten so many takeaways in all my life. Like I'm horrified now to think about it, because the
Sure.
poor child had a bad start. But look, it's amazing what your body is telling you need. And I truly believe now that it's your body saying like, you need all the carbohydrates because we need this quick fire energy for us to be growing this baby, and
Yeah.
a lot of women say the same thing. They're like, oh, I can't stomach anything else but like toast and crackers and pastas and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, but just go with it. Like it's a short time. And if you had given me a piece of broccoli or a salad in that time, I would have actually been sick. Like it was just so bizarre. So
Oh.
anyway, it was nuts. And then in week like 14 on, when I started to feel myself again, like you really do just kind of return to your normal. And I was able to eat all the normal things that I usually would. So, now when women come to me and they say like they're eating maybe poorly in those first weeks, I'm like, do just go with it, because you will get to the point where you're able to eat everything again and you'll feel good. So yeah, so that was unusual for me. So the diet totally changed for those weeks. Then I got back to kind of my normal, but I was very conscious of eating things, I guess like real processed stuff at that stage, Adrian, like even things like protein powders. Like, no, I know they're fine, but like, I love all the flavored ones, of course, because they're delicious. And I was thinking like there's a lot of, like stabilizers and sweeteners and artificial things in those. So I ditched a lot of those. I mean, I had them, but just not as much or every day. Then there's all the things they tell you absolutely to avoid, like alcohol, caffeine. You can have like, I think it's up to 300 milligrams of coffee a day. To be honest, I actually just went to decaf on tea and coffee. I just didn't notice the difference. I was like, this is fine. Obviously avoided the alcohol. And then, you're not meant to have like this, or there's certain foods you're not meant to have, like certain cheeses and all this sort of crack, and like shellfish or whatever, fine. But what I found was interesting was there's all this other stuff they advise you not to have, like some herbal teas, and I don't know, like there was just some random things that I was like, why can't you have those during pregnancy, and even like some like vitamins and supplements I would have taken, like suddenly then you're looking at the box and it's like, don't take these during pregnancy. So it's very strange, because there's so much that you think would be good for you, and then it's like suddenly you have to revise everything you're doing
because of and Laura, would your calories have increased then as your pregnancy went on?
So basically, sorry, he's doing all this sort of grunting and groaning here. This is the post-bottle fun now. But anyway,
this is real life reality.
This is real life. This is the what's the word? The multitasking. But so yeah, with the calories in the second trimester, like they say, you can have 250 to 300 plus your normal calories. And did I have it? I probably did. Yeah, I probably did. Like I wasn't sort of anally keeping an eye on it every day to make sure I was having enough, because what I found was there were days you really wanted it and you might have just had the extra or above the 300, let's say. And then there were days where you just weren't hungry enough for it. So I felt it kind of all evened out in the end. In the third trimester, when you can have up to 500 calories plus, I definitely was keeping an eye on it a little bit more, because I was still working out quite a lot. I was walking a lot, and I was like, right, I really need to make sure I'm getting enough calories, and then so Taylor actually was measuring small. And I remember saying to the consultant, like, oh my God, am I working out too much? Or, is it the food or whatever? And she was like, absolutely not. She was like, this is just your predisposition and your genetics for your baby. Like, so but at that point, when they started talking about him measuring small, which you'd find hard to believe now with the size of him, but I definitely then started keeping an eye more on my food in the last weeks, and I made sure I got those extra 500 calories, because I just
giving yourself permission to eat more.
I was just making sure, like, okay, well, let it not be said it was anything I did, that kind of way.
Of course.
So no, I made sure to eat like absolutely enough for me, and let's say that was 500 on top of the extra calories needed for all my exercise and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So like it was a lot of food.
Interesting. Interesting. And just in general, so Laura, because for anyone who follows Laura on IG, if you don't, you definitely should, because she does share like she shares some real epic nice recipes, particularly in relation to oats, epic like protein pancake Sunday stacks. Laura, I'm at a point now where if someone asks me if you want to go for breakfast on a Saturday, I'd rather say, can we go for lunch, because I want my protein stack in the morning, and I'd rather than go for lunch or dinner. That's how good they freaking taste. So just talk in general, Laura, about the importance of like just including foods that you enjoy and being able to integrate this into your lifestyle. So we're never really in the phase where we're thinking we're dieting. It's just more so something that we do.
Absolutely. So like I love that philosophy, Adrian. I love that you're touching on this. And I always say it to clients as well, or anyone that's asking me about nutrition and food, like, you have to eat the foods you enjoy, because that's just life. Like, if you have Do you know what I love? I love when someone comes to me and they say, oh, but like, I don't know if I should do this plan at this time because I've got a wedding on or I've got a birthday. And I'm like, no, this is exactly the time you should do it. Because if
Amen.
you know, like if you don't prove to yourself that you can go to a birthday party or an anniversary or the wedding and live your best life and have the drinks and the food and then get back on track, or, you know, work it into your lifestyle, that person will freak out then when the time comes that they have to do it on their own. So, you know,
100%.
it's unrealistic to expect that a person will have a clean run at life all the time. And it's boring. Like, you don't want to be the person in the corner at a birthday party saying no to a piece of cake. Like, you have to live. And if you can learn to understand what your body needs in terms of the correct calories, macronutrients, and know what you need to fuel it, there's nothing to say then you can't have those things that you enjoy and love, you know?
I love it. Oh, like that's such a great point, because I literally, I have this conversation every week where it's really, Laura, it's that freaking all or nothing mindset that we're either all in, we're all out, there's nothing in between. But like, you know, tell me, for people who kind of have that approach, they kind of feel that, okay, I'm not going to start, as you said, until the wedding, until after the wedding, until after the holiday, because you know, when I do something, I'm going to do it right. But you got to ask yourself the question, okay, do you never plan on like eating out again? Do you never plan on going on holidays again? The harder the season you enter, the better the time it is to do it. Like, Christmas comes around every year. Wouldn't it be nice to actually understand how you can still, you know, maintain progress? Because you don't always have to be moving forward. Maintenance itself can be a form of progression. And if you can just understand how you can maintain during holidays, during you know, busy events where you've got something coming up every weekend, that the more confidence it'll give you that you can sustain it long term. So I'm with you 100%.
It's so true. It's so true. Sorry, he's making even more noise now. Poor Adrian, your podcast has been totally disturbed. But no, I 100% agree. And like, that's it. Like, people have to, oh my gosh, people have to learn. And if they don't, then it is panic when they go to something like that. Or else what happens, Adrian, is like that the wheels fall off because they go to a wedding and then it turns into a week of bad eating. You know what I mean? Yeah,
you know,
sorry,
I've already
now.
messed up. It's the binge eating then, Norma. You know, I've already messed up. I may as well press the effort button and keep going and start again. You're always just one action.
That's it. It's this whole like binging, restricting mentality that people
100%.
then like. Sorry, I just need to pop something in his mouth here to keep him happy.
But that is, for all our listeners out there, like, that is what causes, you know, yo-yo dieting, where you essentially, you're quote unquote good for a few weeks, and then you know, something happens, you eat a donut, you eat a cookie, and now you think that you're bad. So, you know, just not to label foods as good or bad, Laura. But I want to just quickly transition, Laura, now onto just more so like mindset. And because, look, pregnancy aside, I know a lot of people, they kind of say, I wish I looked like I did back then now. You know, I wish I looked like when I was in my college days, or when I was 25, I was in my prime. I wish I looked like that now. And I know, like, for mums out there too, a common thing they kind of say is, you know, I want to get my pre-pregnancy body back.
Yeah.
So Laura, can you just kind of talk to us about, you know, like postpartum body dissatisfaction, which maybe some mums might have, and just like some mindset tips on how you've kind of adjusted that around your own self?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's whether, look, as you rightly say, whether it's postpartum or not, we all have a time in our lives where we look back and think, gosh, I'd love to look like that, you know. And like, a lot of people, you know, I myself, you might look at a photo of yourself when you're 16 and say like, God, I'd love to look like that. But like, come on, like, you know, we all change and evolve, and your body changes, and it's unrealistic to expect that you'll ever be exactly as you were when you were, I don't know, 10 years ago, or maybe even 2 years ago, depending on what happened. And it's so true with the postnatal thing. Like, it's such a controversial topic, and it's so hard for women because we do put so much pressure on ourselves to say like, oh, I need to get exactly back to whatever. But like, to be honest, it's not that it doesn't matter. Like, of course you need to feel good for yourself, but you have to just look at what you've done. Like, your body has just done the most incredible thing in your entire life. Like, it has grown a human being. It is still the most alien thing to me, Adrian, and I've just done it. Like, I can't even get my head around it, you know. And you know, how could your body ever be exactly the same, you know? So you have to just start with, okay, like maybe creating a new baseline, and not saying that you want to be exactly as you were before. You know, things can change. You know, like people's shape might be different after having a baby. Even if you were to, you know, quote unquote, lose all your whatever baby weight and get back to a you know, a point of feeling and looking good, you know, your hips might be wider, or I don't know,
Sure.
like there's just changes that happen to your body during pregnancy. And like, would you want it any other way? Like, probably not, you know. So it's just about, I think, like creating a new baseline and accepting that it may never be exactly the same, but like, how good can you make yourself feel with this new normal, let's say. And yeah, and just like that, creating I think it's good to just kind of create then, hopefully, and I'm going to try and do for myself going forward, like a strong basis to work off then, like if you were ever to have another baby, or if you ever wanted to get back to extreme exercise or whatever the kind of thing, you know, knowing now what your body goes through, wouldn't you want to give it its best fighting chance of being in a good position to do it all again, you know? So
which will you regret more in 10 years time? Absolutely.
yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, it's just like that. You don't, like life's too short to be worrying about, like obviously you have to be healthy and it's nice to be fit and everything else, but like it's too short to be worrying about like, oh God, like, you know, I'd love to wear a crop top again. Would you rather that or have your baby? Like, you know, it's just about weighing it all up, you know.
And obviously with different season in life comes different priorities. And maybe when you are a bit younger, when you don't have a young family to cater for, you can invest more time too into exercising, into prepping and so on. But now that you're in a different season, obviously your life's at just two doors. So very, very briefly, just before we wrap it up, Laura, can you just share maybe, because you are now a new season of life, and obviously, you know, young Taylor is there. Can you just share, Laura, how you're kind of fitting exercise into, you know, a pretty busy schedule?
Yeah, very, very poorly. So no, look, I am getting it done because I do, for me, it's really important for me in the day. And like that, like I talked to you about the recovery, I think you have to, as well as taking care of your baby, you have to think like you have been through, your body has been through a trauma of sorts, and you have to take care of your own recovery, or else you won't be in the best place to take care of your baby. And you know, you need to make sure you're strong enough for that and all the rest. Like this fellow weighs a ton now, you know, and I'm carrying him around every day. So you know, you want to make sure you have a good, strong basis for that. But I think in general, like, as well as kind of the recovery aspect, for me, like I talked about, the headspace is so important. And I've just had to really come to terms with the fact that it's never going to be at the same time every day. It might only be 10 minutes instead of half an hour. You know, some days it might only be the walk and you mightn't get the workout in. And it's just about accepting that and being kind to yourself. Like, I am in normal life, pre-Taylor, let's say, I would have been very routine based, structure based, like you, follow that plan to a T. And if I deviated from it, I kind of would have been upset with myself. Like, I'm probably a bit of a control freak, I'm not gonna lie. So for me to have to now, you know, really just adapt to life with number one priority is not you anymore. Like, you have to make sure baby's needs are taken care of first, and then you can figure out what you have to get done. And that has been probably the biggest adjustment for me, in full stop, with having Taylor. Like, whether it's exercise or just doing bits around the house, like to just not be able to work off your own schedule has been a challenge, and I won't lie. And I don't mind, and I know it's all part of it, but it's an adjustment. Like, you have to kind of retrain yourself and your thinking. So yeah, some days, like, I'm like, oh, I'd love to just work out in the morning, but you just can't. So then I might have to wait till Dara's home from work and pass Taylor over and then get 20 minutes
too
in,
rigid,
you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Whereas before,
awesome.
Like, I would have had my schedule planned out for the week, and I would have known if I was doing the workout in the morning or the evening or whatever, which way. Whereas now it's like, you do it when you can, you know.
Gotcha. But you still get it in, you still prioritize.
I still get it in, yeah. And look, there's definitely, you know, and that is the hard part. Like, there's some days where the evening comes, Dara's home from work, and you're thinking, sure, I'll just leave it now. You know, we'll just sit down and we'll just take it easy. And then I'm like, no, because tomorrow the same thing might happen and I mightn't get it done. And the next day the same thing. So, you know, like yeah,
Yeah,
like on any other day, when you finally get your workout done, you feel amazing. And as I say,
100%.
for me at the moment, it's less about the workout and the fitness, let's say. Well, no, I don't want to say the fitness. It's more about just the I'm treating it as like I'm doing my rehab, let's say, So if I do 20 minutes of a workout, then I bang on 5 to 10 minutes at the end. Or even if I do 10 minutes of a workout, I try to do 5 to 10 minutes at the end of my pelvic floor rehab and my core rehab. And that to me is like you're rehabbing your body. Like if you had an injury of any kind, Adrian, and you don't do your physiotherapy work or your rehab work,
Sure.
you're susceptible to relapsing or just the injury never getting better properly.
So there's
That kind of way.
parallels
So
there. Absolutely.
yeah, so
And you
I'm
kind of
treating it
answered my
like
follow-on
that.
question, Laura, because
Yeah.
just like going forward then, Laura, do you have kind of any current goals that you're working on, or
Yeah,
is it
like I
just more
definitely
so like as you said, like the rehab, the maintenance and scaling things up again, maybe once the 12-week mark kind of passes by?
exactly. Yeah, definitely. And like, I think working on that rehab stuff, and then when the 12 weeks passes, definitely upping the ante a bit if I feel ready. Like someone else might not feel ready. And like that's the thing, people say, if you had a normal birth, that you can get back to exercise maybe after your 6-week check. And if you had a cesarean section, you can get back to it after 12, maybe some cases 16 weeks. I didn't have a section, by the way, so I could probably be upping the ante sooner, but I'm just really treading carefully because like that, I'm just thinking, the year is long enough, life is long enough. There's plenty of time for the workouts as well. Don't get me wrong, I want to do them all, but there is time to get back to that level of intensity. And if you don't, you can't, like that typical, like you can't run before you crawl. If I don't do it slowly, I equally don't want to be sorry if I've done some kind of damage then. Do you know that kind of way? So
Brilliant.
that's why I'm probably being extra cautious with myself. And those guidelines of your 6 and 12 weeks and whatever the case is, they're guidelines. Like your body best, and you have to just listen to it. And if you feel you're doing too much too soon, then pull it back.
Brilliant. Awesome, Laura. Just some quick rapid fire. So we'll just do a few.
Yeah, love it.
Five rapid fire before final 2 questions, which I ask all of our members are. So first, rapid fire. What's one new habit you've implemented in the last 12 months?
One new habit. Oh my gosh. I'm not good at quick fire, Adrian. Let me see. Probably, habit. I was going to say it's not really a habit, but probably just learning to be a bit more laid back with things. That's not really a habit, though, is it?
Well, it's an adjustment of mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, like my habits before were just that: habits, routine, like strict and structured. And I'd have like a strict morning routine, and if I didn't stick to it, I feel like my whole day would be off course. And now things have gone out the window, obviously, and you can't have those routines as rigid. So it's definitely learning to be a little bit more laid back and being okay with that. Awesome. I think I was always very hard on myself in the past, and I'd be like, no, I have to do this. And it's like, no, you don't. You'll get it done at some stage, but it doesn't have to be in this moment, or in this order. Brilliant. Let's say.
I love it. Awesome. Brilliant. There's a great quote actually that says, like, we question all of our beliefs except those that we perceive to be true, and those we don't question at all. So just that, just that adjustment in mindset, Laura, I love it. Tell me, next question. When you hear the word successful, who is the first person who comes to mind?
Oh my gosh, successful. Someone like, I don't know, Jeff Bezos.
You can't get much better than that. Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon. I love it.
I know.
Awesome.
And like at the same time, would I ever have a desire to do what he's doing? Hell no. No, like, look, I even think I look up to a lot of people in our industry, Adrian. Like, even like I'm a massive fan of all the fitness YouTubers, like the Rob Lipsitz and Mike Thurston and Natural's Fitness, and I love them and I love to watch them. And I think fair play to them, like they are doing it, and they've like completely created a life for themselves that anyone would wish for. And they're busy and they're working hard and they're grafting, but they're kind of doing it all. And I look at people like that and I think, yes, like it's possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie. I love Step Brothers. It's just such a laugh. Feel good film, you know.
Classic.
Yeah, so good. Sorry,
Classic.
he's really getting. I'm just popping up my shoulder. Go on. I love these.
Just one or two more. What do you feel, Laura, is the most underrated gym exercise you feel most people should do more of?
Oh, great question. Let me see. Oh my God, you've really got me there, because there's so many I'm like, I love. You know, I'm a big fan of the leg press in a gym.
I knew well you would say that. I knew well you would say that. Leg press.
I am. I love the leg press.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know what? Like, I have to say, I don't want to have a sweeping general statement here, Adrian. But women, when I train them, like, we've got strong lower bodies. I have to tell you that
100%.
much. And we underestimate that. And I think we need to like build on our strengths. And we have a predisposition, I think, to have good, strong lower bodies. It probably is for doing what I just did, the whole birthing process. And then, yeah, we kind of have like, just now, obviously some women are different, but typically a weaker upper body. So that's why men always love their upper body training, and we don't mind the squats and
we focus on our
strengths,
Aoife. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But then it's to kind of play on those and really like make the most of the equipment to hand in the gym. So yeah, leg press for me.
Brilliant.
Love it.
No surprises. Last one, Laura. Last rapid fire. What's one question you wish people asked you more?
Oh, that's a really good one. But I wish they asked me more. God, that is a tough one. I wish, like, look, when it comes to, again, I'm just going to keep it on topic here as well. And it is very true. Like, I wish when people come to me asking about health and fitness plans, I wish they were coming more with like, to make them, like, I always ask people, what's your goal, right? You know, and I wish they would say to me, oh, just to be healthier and fitter, not like, I want to lose 3 stone, or I want to fit into this dress, or I want to do this, because that's just, I don't know, it's just bringing it back to such an aesthetic, like, I don't know, how am I trying to say this? It's bringing it back to like something that they're not happy with in themselves, you know, and I hate that. Like, I would just love for everyone to wish for themselves that they're just healthier, happier, fitter, and then whatever aesthetic things come with that, like, that's fantastic, but that it's not the be all and end all, because then they just pick themselves apart and get so down on themselves if it doesn't happen, you know. So yeah, I wish people asked me, like, can you help me just get healthier, fitter, and live a happier lifestyle because of it, and not necessarily, can you help me, you know, lose 5 stone
without attaching it to a specific number, a specific target. Absolutely. Focus more in the process.
Just, Adrian, I see women are so, I shouldn't just say women, because I know men are too. I suppose the way my fit like training has gone, typically it's women who do come to me for plans, so I'm just speaking from experience. Like, we're so hard on ourselves, and you know, we pick ourselves apart morning, noon, and night. And also, we're the women who are like, well, there's women who come to me and they're just trying to do it all, and they're burning themselves into the ground. And like, you know, that they're the cases that make me most sad, because I'm like, you don't need to be doing this much or being this hard on yourself. You know, so I wish women would just come and say, or people would come to me and say, like, I don't know, how can I just have like a balanced lifestyle, you know, and not try to be the kings or queens of everything they do. Because burnout is such a real thing, and I see it time and time again. People are doing too much, you know, and let me tell you, the amount of people who come to me looking for plans, and actually what I need to do with them is tell them to pull back and eat more. Do you know what I mean? Wow. So like, there's a lot of people out there killing themselves, and it's really sad to see, because the negative impact of that can be just as detrimental as someone who's maybe overeating and doing no exercise, you know.
Sure. That adjustment again. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Laura, I want to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for coming on. Shared just a ton of wisdom there, I think, on a topic that maybe doesn't get as much coverage as it probably should, Laura. So just for all our listeners out there, in 60 seconds or less, Laura, what are like 1 to 3 takeaways you'd like our listeners to implement?
Well, definitely just like that, if they are going through a pregnancy, you know, and they're pre or post, just really, I would say go to a women's female health physio. I think that's integral. I think it's really good to just learn where your body's at in terms of your pelvic floor strength, your recovery required, everything else, and take it slow. Like, if you're pregnant and you don't feel up to doing things like you normally did, that's okay. You know, the time will come to when you actually do feel like working out to that level again, and you want to eat all your good foods. So don't be hard on yourself. And then postnatally, also definitely take it slow. And, you know, I'm always conscious too, like, look, I have been sharing a bit online about what I'm doing during my postnatal journey, but just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean it's right. And you really need to figure out what your baseline is and then just build from there. So yeah, take it slow and be kind to yourself. We're very hard on ourselves.
Awesome. Final question of the day, Laura, because this is the Lifestyle Lifters show. Laura, what's your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
A successful lifestyle, being happy, Adrian. My God, like, you know, wait, can you hear me okay? Sorry.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay, just because my AirPods went, I think, so I'm back on my the normal speaker. Being happy, like, look, you can have amazing businesses and all the money in the world and do all these things, and if you're not happy, it's worth jack shit. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be happy in everything you do, and that can just be building a fulfilled life for yourself with the simplest of things. Like, I always bring it back to gratitude, and I don't know if it's something you do. I'm a huge fan of like practicing gratitude every day, and if something isn't going my way, I try and flip it to the positive and just think, okay, well, let's pick the good out of today. And if you're grateful for even just like the bowl of porridge you have in the morning, or the cup of coffee, or the walk in the fresh air, you know, headspace, like that is all, that's what it's all about. Do you know what I mean? So if you can just enjoy those small everyday moments, like, you're successful. Like, you don't need anything bigger or more, you know what I mean? So I would be a firm believer in just appreciating those small everyday things.
You're successful when you say you are. You're successful when you say you are. And I love that. I mean, just gratitude. We're alive. We're able to get up in the morning.
Exactly.
You know, those who are around you, they're happy, they're healthy. Hopefully, you're able to exercise, you're able to train. So much to be grateful for it. And I know the temptation, as you said, Laura, it's always kind of be reaching for more, but you also have to be here and now. Just be present, be happy. I love it. What a great way to end the show, Laura.
Laura, I know, and I'm so sorry with all the noises from Taylor. He's really getting lively now. My God, poor Adrian.
Well, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Laura. And just share with our listeners, Laura, where can people learn more about you and what you offer?
Definitely just on Instagram. I probably haven't been good enough at making any lovely comprehensive websites or anything, but Instagram for sure. So it's at Laura Burke Fitness, and I tend to put most things there. And people can always send me messages and ask questions and things. I love chatting to people, and I'm sure you find, Adrian, it's such a nice community as well. Like, you get to meet so many amazing people. And let me tell you, since I had this baby, the moms of the world out there have been my angels. Like, they have been better help to me than anyone. So I'm very, very grateful for everyone who does interact with me on Instagram. And they don't even know the difference they make to my everyday. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, for all the listeners out there, definitely give Laura a follow. I'll post a link to her social in the show notes. And if you got value off this show, just please pay the small fee that we ask, which is if you learned something new, if you got value, please just reshare it on your IG stories, subscribe, give us a good review and all those good things. And we will reshare it if you do tag it. So, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing.
No problem. And typical, Taylor is now like asleep just at the end. We couldn't have timed it better. Thanks so much, Adrian. I'll talk to you soon.